You could run a 10K tomorrow, crush your personal best, feel absolutely incredible, and still drop dead 2 weeks later from a heart attack you never saw coming. How is that even possible? Because your body is a master of deception. Right now, as you're reading this, you could have a blockage so severe, it's one bad day away from killing you. And you'd have zero idea. No chest pain, no shortness of breath, nothing. In fact, for half of all men who die from heart disease, their very first symptom isn't a warning sign at all. It's death itself. Sudden, unexpected, final. This isn't about being out of shape or ignoring your health. This is about understanding why the system fails, even when you think you're doing everything right. Your heart is an absolute beast of an organ. It beats over 100,000 times a day, pumping roughly 2,000 gallons of blood through your body without you ever thinking about it. But all that work demands fuel, and fuel means oxygen. To get that oxygen, your heart relies entirely on a network of blood vessels wrapped around it like vines on a tree. These are your coronary arteries, and they're named that way because early doctors thought they looked like a crown sitting on top of the heart. But here's what you need to understand. If even one of those vessels gets blocked, the part of your heart it feeds starts dying within minutes. There are two main highways here: the right coronary artery and the left coronary artery. The left one splits into a massive vessel called the left anterior descending artery, and emergency room doctors have a terrifying nickname for it. They call it the Widowmaker. That's not dramatic exaggeration. It's cold reality. The Widowmaker supplies blood to the front and bottom of your left ventricle, which is the main pumping chamber of your heart. If a small branch gets clogged, you lose a little bit of function. But if the Widowmaker itself gets blocked, your entire heart can shut down in seconds. Massive amounts of tissue die. Your blood pressure crashes. Your brain loses oxygen. Game over. So how does a blockage form in someone who runs every morning, eats clean, and has a resting heart rate of 55? The answer lies in something most people completely misunderstand. It starts with the lining of your arteries. In a perfect world, that lining is smooth and slippery, like the inside of a brand new garden hose. Blood cells glide right past it without any friction. But over time, things go wrong. High blood pressure, high blood sugar, smoking, chronic stress, even just the sheer force of blood slamming against your artery walls during decades of intense exercise. All of this acts like sandpaper. Tiny scratches and tears form on that once smooth surface that your body immediately tries to fix the damage. It sends LDL cholesterol to patch up those scratches, kind of like using spackle to fill a crack in drywall. Then your immune system sends white blood cells to inspect the repair site. Those cells gobble up the cholesterol, bloat into what we call foam cells, and eventually harden into a mixture of fat, calcium, and dead cellular debris. That hardened gunk is plaque, and this whole process is called atherosclerosis. Now here's where most people get it completely wrong. They imagine plaque building up like a clog in a drain. The pipe gets narrower and narrower until one day it's completely blocked and the water stops flowing. They assume they'll feel it happening. They think they'll get winded or feel chest tightness as the opening gets smaller. That makes perfect, logical sense. But biology doesn't care about logic. Your body adapts in ways that are both brilliant and deadly. As plaque starts forming inside your artery, the artery wall doesn't just sit there and let the opening shrink. It actually stretches outward to make room for the plaque, keeping the channel open so blood can still flow freely. Doctors call this positive remodeling, and it's the reason you can have a dangerous amount of plaque and feel absolutely nothing. The tube is still open. Blood is still flowing. You can run marathons, lift weights, play with your kids, and never once suspect that anything is wrong. This is why so many heart attacks come out of nowhere. The victim felt fine right up until the moment they collapsed. For 50% of men and 64% of women, the first symptom of heart disease isn't pain or fatigue. It's sudden death. No warning, no second chance. So what actually triggers the heart attack if the artery isn't slowly closing. It all comes down to plaque stability. Imagine that deposit of plaque is like a pimple under your skin. It's filled with inflammatory gunk and covered by a thin, fragile cap. This is what doctors call soft plaque, and it's far more dangerous than the hard, calcified kind. If you experience a sudden spike in blood pressure, intense physical exertion, or even extreme emotional stress, that fragile cap can tear open. When it ruptures, all that toxic material spills directly into your bloodstream. Your body sees this as a massive internal injury and immediately sends platelets rushing to the scene to form a clot. That response is life-saving. If you cut your hand but inside your coronary artery, it's catastrophic. Within minutes, that clot grows so large it completely blocks the vessel. It's not the plaque that kills you, it's the sudden clot formation, sealing off blood flow like a cork jammed into a bottle. But there's another scenario that catches a lot of disciplined athletes off guard, and it's called a type 2 heart attack. Imagine a runner named Robert. He's 50 years old, runs 5 days a week, has normal cholesterol, and feels great. One day during a race, he doesn't get crushing chest pain, he just feels off. His energy drops, he gets lightheaded, maybe a little nauseous. He thinks he's just dehydrated and pushes through. Later at the hospital, doctors find a protein called troponin in his blood. Troponin is locked inside heart muscle cells, and when those cells die, they break open and leak it into your bloodstream. Robert is having a heart attack, but when they image his arteries, they don't find a total blockage. They find a 50% narrowing. So, how did he have a heart attack with blood still flowing? It's a supply and demand mismatch. When Robert is sitting on a couch, that 50% blockage doesn't matter. His heart needs a trickle, and it gets a trickle. But when his heart rate spikes to 170 beats per minute during that race, his heart is screaming for oxygen. It needs a fire hose worth of blood, but the narrowed artery can only deliver a garden hose. The muscle starts suffocating, and cells begin dying. In Robert's case, there was another twist. He also had atrial fibrillation, a condition where the top chambers of your heart stop beating normally and start quivering chaotically. This messes up the heart's rhythm and reduces its ability to pump efficiently. Combine that with a partially blocked artery and a sky-high heart rate, and you've created the perfect storm. This is why doctors talk about the 70% threshold. Generally, you won't feel chest pain until an artery is about 70% blocked. Below that, your heart compensates. Above that, you might feel tightness when climbing stairs that goes away when you rest. We call that stable angina, and it's your body's check engine light. But here's the terrifying part. Most heart attacks happen in people with less than 50% blockage because soft, unstable plaques are more likely to rupture than big, hard ones. There is one piece of good news buried in all this. Your heart has a secret backup system called collateral circulation. If a blockage develops slowly over years, your heart starts building tiny detour roads around it. These are small vessels that branch off and reroute blood to keep the tissue alive. This is why a 70-year-old might survive a heart attack that would kill a 40-year-old. The older heart had time to build those detours. In a younger person, the rupture is sudden, the highway shuts down instantly, and there's no way around it. One of the best ways to encourage this backup network to grow is through Zone 2 cardio and high-intensity interval training. Exercise literally forces your body to build more blood vessels, and those vessels buy you time when things go wrong. In the emergency room, there's a saying, time is muscle. After a heart attack starts, you have about 20 minutes before irreversible damage begins. After 90 minutes, heart tissue turns to scar tissue, and scar tissue doesn't pump. To save the muscle, you have to recognize the symptoms fast. Men usually get the classic Hollywood heart attack with crushing chest pressure and arm pain. Women often get something much more subtle. Extreme fatigue, shortness of breath, nausea, or even what feels like bad acid reflux. If you ever feel a sudden, overwhelming sense of doom for no reason, don't ignore it. Call for help immediately. If the worst happens and a vessel gets blocked, cardiologists can perform a procedure called PCI. They thread a thin tube through your wrist, guide it up to your heart, inject dye to find the blockage, and then inflate a tiny balloon to smash the plaque flat. After that, they deploy a stent, a small metal mesh tube that holds the artery open permanently. It's modern medicine at its best. But wouldn't it be better to find the problem before it becomes an emergency? That's where screening comes in. Standard blood work only tells you what's floating around in your bloodstream. It doesn't tell you what's stuck to your artery walls. You need better data. A calcium score scan takes 5 minutes and looks for hardened calcium deposits in your arteries. A score of 0 is perfect. A score over 400 means you're sitting on a time bomb. An even better test is a CT angiogram, which can actually see soft plaque, the invisible stuff that hasn't calcified. Yet, this is your early warning system. The healthy heart attack is almost always a tragedy of ignorance. You don't have to guess if you're healthy. Control your blood pressure to stop the mechanical tearing of your arteries.